You're locked into the only podcast for Maine high school basketball. The biggest names, past and present. It's Big Time Hoops, the podcast, right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. And we got Gorham in the building. Gorham is heavy in the building right now. And we're just going to do a little round table here with the girls of Gorham. I got my buddy Laughn, good buddy of mine. We go way back. He's been on the other podcast several times. And Mckenzie making her second appearance here. So but we're going to go around the table, around the room here and just get to know everyone first. So off the bat, I got to apologize to Mackenzie for last time I had you on. I inadvertently wore a Michigan hoodie and without even realizing it, but I busted out my Gorham gear tonight to kind of make amends. But I'm going to start off with Laughn. Laughn, what's going on?
Hey, I'm feeling good. This is the most excited I've been for a podcast. You know, I've got a chance to get on and kind of talk about some of the things that I've been able to do in the past playing or some of the people I grew up with. But this is, you know, I've listened to you use the word royalty before. This is Gorham girls basketball royalty right here. I'm
excited. I'm excited to learn a little bit. I know some of the names, but I'm a Northern Maine guy, so hopefully I'll learn a thing or two tonight. So, Laughn, I'm actually going to have you introduce the girls. I want to go in order, starting from the beginning of your tenure and work your way down with who we have tonight.
Yeah, Tom, I'm really excited to introduce this group. This is the best of the best that have played for me in my time. Really girls that from one to the other have passed on the tradition of Gorham basketball. So first up is Rachele Burns. She was a class of 2009. Really one of the players that, got me started in coaching girls basketball. The opportunity to be able to coach a player like this was very intriguing. And when I took the job, she didn't disappoint. She was actually a kid that could have gone Division I in any of the sports she played. She was actually the Gatorade Player of the Year in soccer. Excellent in softball, but basketball was her passion. And honestly, if Rachele hadn't got hurt, she probably would have ended up her career as Miss Maine basketball and close to like the 1,500 point mark. She was just a phenomenal athlete. I remember she scored 21 points in the fourth quarter alone for us to be able to win. She got a Division I scholarship to Maine, even though she battled through some injuries. So Rachele was outstanding and sort of like paved the way for some of these other girls. Next up, we have Kristen Ross. She was the class of 2013. Kristen was Maine McDonald's All-Star and a Miss Basketball semifinalist. She was a kid that was a double machine. She was gonna go out. You knew what you were gonna get from her. She was gonna get you, 16 to 18 points and 10 to 12 boards a game. And, her junior year statistically was probably the best year. She had a few injuries her senior year. But she was dominant and she was somebody you had to game plan for all the time. She was just a powerhouse. Aside from Mckenzie, she was the only one that I've had that has been able to get over 200 rebounds in a season. Kristen played Division I. She got a scholarship to Binghamton University and had a nice career there. Next up, we have Abby Hamilton. Abby's the class of 2015. Abby was a 4-year player for me, Maine McDonald's All-Star. Abby was an unbelievable sharpshooter. She still holds the record at Gorham High School for three-pointers made in a season, which is 39, and she did that 2 times. She did it her junior and senior year, and she battled some injuries too, so she did that in some shortened season. But she won the Lisa Blaze Manning Award in our league, and she was somebody that you always had to make sure you had your eye on because when she got hot, it was going to be trouble for the other team. Next, we've got Caitli Lundin, class of 2017. Kaylea was really the glue to our back-to-back state championship teams. We went 42-0 when we had Kaylea and Mackenzie and Emily together. But she made sure that teams couldn't press us. She really got us into what we had to do. She won the Lisa Blaze Manning Award as well, was a McDonald's All-Star, but always played much, much bigger than she was. She had the extra gear that She was going to be able to run by people. So she was a really special player. I actually, when she was going to the University of Tampa, I went down to visit my mother in St. Petersburg, and I got in the car and I drove over to Tampa, and I walked into the coach's office and I said, hey, listen, you really got to take a look at this kid because she can play for you. And, she didn't end up playing there, but it wasn't because she didn't have the ability to. She just decided that she wanted some other things. And but I wanted to make sure that I at least took the opportunity to walk in and see the coach. And it was a good experience, and I'm sure she's happy with the decision. But I'm glad that I went down and advocated for her at least to have that opportunity. Next up, classmate Emily Esposito. Emily really came in day one and was ready to play. She, again, the list of accolades for Emily is so long. She was the Maine Gatorade Player of the Year. She was Miss Maine Basketball. She scored 1,446 points in a Gorham uniform. She was the USA Today All-Maine Player of the Year. And she earned a full scholarship to Villanova University, where she made the Big East All-Freshman team. There isn't enough good things that I can say about Emily. She's competitive. She's talented. She's since chosen a different route. She's transferred to BU. She's found a much better fit for herself, and I'm looking so forward to watching her play at BU. Then we've got Mackenzie Holmes, class of 2019. And with Mckenzie, like Emily, I mean, the list of accolades is enormous. Mckenzie set some records in a Gorham uniform. She's scored 1,745 points, 1,018 rebounds, and 365 blocks. And the reality is that the numbers that she put up in her last year were amazing. She scored over 1,000 points in her last 2 years combined. But again, she's McDonald's All-Star, Gatorade Player of the Year, USA Today All-American. And so her jersey's actually hanging up right now in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville. And I couldn't be more proud of this group. Mckenzie this past year, set an Indiana University record shooting over 63% from the floor, which was 6th in the country. So the group that we have today is fantastic. I can't be more pleased to have them here, and I'm excited for today.
Absolutely. So we're just going to start going through here and just talking to everyone that's in the room. So I'm going to start with your first one. I'm going to start with Rachel. So Laughn coming into the program, taking over, he mentioned that we were talking beforehand that he kind of made the decision a little bit easier once he saw you and just how good you were. But I'm curious, what was it like when Laughn came in? Where was the program at when he took over? And did you see a change right away, or were you kind of like hesitant about whether this guy could make a difference at Gorham?
Well, he came in, and when I was a freshman, I think it was, he helped out Sherry Coyne, who was the head coach at the time. And so the transition was pretty easy. She kind of wanted to retire and be done coaching. I think she might have had her daughters or planning to have a family. And so then Coach Berthiaume applied for the job, obviously, and got it. And the transition was pretty smooth. I mean, he was an assistant before, so I knew him, and I knew that he had good basketball knowledge and would get Gorham to where they deserve to be. So.
And I'm curious, and I kind of curious how this will work with kind of the succession of players that we have here, starting from when he first started and where he's at now. So, Rachel, curious, when you were growing up, were you a fan of the Gorham girls program? Were you going to games? Were you aware of the players that came before you? And if so, like, who were some of like the girls you looked up to when you were coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was like live, breathe, go to basketball games. I was the Gorham High School's water girl for a little while. Was in the locker room with them for their pregame stuff. And so, I mean, I would say, I mean, when I was in middle school, I played some summer league games with them, and they were a great group. I know the players that I grew up watching was like Noelle Beagle, who was a 1,000-point scorer. She ended up going to Yale to play. And I mean, there are some others that were in my class. Like I played with Caitlin Butterfield and Kelsey Wilson and those guys, and they were great teammates and great to have around as well. So it was fun playing with some of them, and then also growing up watching some of them as well.
All right. And Kristen, I'll bring you in. So you're next. So curious, growing up in Gorham, what was it like when you were coming up in terms of just, you know, was there a good youth basketball scene at the time? Like did Gorham have like a good, like kind of like a feeder system? Were you involved in that? What was it like when you were coming up?
Yeah, I can't remember a time where I wasn't involved in some kind of like Gorham rec league or travel team. I grew up watching Noel Feeble too, and Rachel when I was in middle school. And you see those people like walking around the grocery store, and as a little kid, it's like seeing a celebrity because like we're such fans, my whole family. So yeah, definitely a great feeder system in Gorham.
Were you going to like tournament games and all that stuff? Like, were you traveling? Were you like a diehard fan like that, or was it just more so, Friday nights at Gorham, go to the game?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember a couple of times that the Gorham boys team back when we were in Class B made it to states, and like driving with my family and like getting a hotel room and doing the whole thing. And it was just, it's such a great town to play basketball in.
All right. How about you, Abby? So what's your earliest recollection of Gorham High School basketball? Was there people that kind of you looked up to and that you wanted to be like? Were you just more like, I just want to play, I don't really care, I'm not paying attention who's in front of me? What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, I kind of like they said, I feel like I always was involved in some sort of something Gorham basketball. I mean, I played ever since I was a little kid. For me, I really remember looking up to Rachel, and Mia Rapola was another big one for me, just where I kind of fell in the age group there. And then as I was in kind of middle school, looking to head into high school, I remember looking up to Kristen too. And Kristen, I played with Kristen for 2 years. And yeah. So
how about this? When it came time to pick your Gorham varsity jersey number, did you pick it because of someone who came before you, or was it like something based on something else?
I had number 5, and that has like become a really good number, I guess, for Gorham at this point, Mckenzie. But I had worn number 5 ever since I was a kid. I actually, fun fact, I loved the Celtics when I was a kid, and I loved Kevin Garnett. So that's kind of where I started as a kid with number 5. And I think it worked out. So Mia Rapola was someone I really looked up to, and she was graduating when I came in as a freshman. So it kind of just worked out that way.
All right.
I'd say probably the most points ever scored in a jersey number 5. There was Abby and Mia Rapola and Mackenzie. There's about 3,300 points scored in number 5.
How's that jersey not retired? Or do you guys just retire? Like you don't retire numbers or what?
Well, it's currently hanging in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. They asked for Mackenzie's jersey last year, and it's in Knoxville right now.
All right. So we'll go to Kaylea now. So 5 was a hot number. Curious, how about you growing up? Did you have people you looked up to? And obviously some of the people that I've already talked to prior to you, they came before you and played at a very high level. So obviously you're coming right after that. What are your earliest recollections?
Actually, it's kind of funny. The people sitting in this room right now, I remember going to the summer camp specifically, was kind of where it all started for me, with Emily and Mackenzie, and then also Kristen, who isn't here tonight. But we went to that camp with the girls sitting here with us tonight, Kristen, Abby, all those guys. So it's pretty cool to see, like, you grew up idolizing them, and then you kind of like step into their shoes and you have to sort of like take over that role. It's just like a whole funnel of really, really good basketball for us.
All right. And then Emily, how about you? So as I kind of just mentioned before you, there's a bunch of girls all in line before you get there. Right when you showed up, or when you're getting ready to play high school ball, was like, all right, I'm gonna be the next one, or were you not really thinking about it that too much? Like, what was it like for you when you were getting into it?
I had really no idea necessarily, because I always looked up to the girls and the whole team in general, I would say. Mr. Esty, I'm good friends with his daughter, Erin, and he was the assistant coach for a long time. So I remember always going to the games with her, and I was always like so excited to either meet the girls or get to sit even close to the bench. So the fact that I knew I could have the possibility of like playing on that team, the varsity team one day, and playing on that court, like that was cool for me as a kid.
Right. Mckenzie, who was it for you? Who was your girl, or who was it in general? Could have been a guy, could have been a girl. Like who'd you look up to when you were growing up?
I mean, being the baby of the group, I've watched everybody play in high school before actually getting to high school. And my mom coached Rachele and Kristen both in AAU for a couple stretches. So I've known them since, I don't know, how old was I? Like 8, maybe? Probably younger
maybe
than
younger.
that. So I've known them and grown up around them. So just I've looked up to pretty much everybody here at some point, one point or another. Still do look up to a lot of them. So
I like that. So, Laughn, it sounds like you built quite the culture here, quite the family. Well, what I want to get from you now is your first memory with each of these girls, like your first thought. Obviously, you got a bunch of ball players in here. Curious if you knew it from day one or not. So I just want you to go around and give me your first impressions of each of the girls.
Okay, so there's the one thing that I'll say they all have in common is their intense desire to win. I mean, you got a bunch of winners in this room, and I think that's something we share. And so there were times that I'd be intense. There were times that I'd try to figure out the right things to say to motivate them. But they all really, at the end of the day, they wanted to win. They're all winners. Rachele, I would say, again, on my first team, and she was really the person that would do everything. I mean, I thought I was such a great coach. We were winning. We had made it to first place in the league. We had just beat an undefeated team. And then Rachele got hurt, and I realized that my plays were working because she was playing, And so I can't sit here and say, hey, I've built something. I've been fortunate to have girls that work hard and kind of play into that team aspect and stuff like that. I'll say Rachele, she had, I remember a game at Scarborough where she scores 37 points, 21 points in the fourth quarter for us to win by like 4. And if the game was on the line, she was going to be that person. I'd say, I mentioned this with Kristen a little bit earlier, a double machine. I mean, she had some injuries her senior year, but her junior year, she was going to get, 17 and 10 every single game. One game in particular, she hits a buzzer beater over at Bonnie Eagle. I think she had like 28 and 13 in that game, and we win in overtime. I think each and every one of these girls have had special moments. Abby's had a couple. South Portland's been a big rival for us, and we down 3 at the end of a game, and Emily and Abby run a play together, and Abby hits a 3 at the buzzer, and we ended up winning that one in overtime. And then she also suffered a major injury her junior year, and then her senior year comes back, and in the tournament, it was one of those that it was kind of a gradual process through the year, getting back into game shape and getting back to where she was. And then, in the playoffs, she ends up, hitting like 5 threes. I think might have had 4 of them in the first half, but big playoff win for us there. Emily's had a time. Emily came in as a freshman, and right away as a freshman, she's the best player on the floor. And she sort of had, we're given the keys to the car right away. And she'd have some of those games where it would be, freshman year, she'd have, 25 and 10, and sophomore year, she'd have another one of those. And I can't really say that there's certain games for her over the course of their career. It was just the consistency. The weird part is in her first 3 years of high school, she scored 345 points, 345 points, 344 points. I mean, it was odd. You get to the end of the year and she's, either right on that mark or 1 point off. And it was just her consistency. And she also would do it on all these. It was kind of whatever we needed from Emily. Kaylee was.
I got to ask you a question real quick, Laughn. So you mentioned consistency. Was it consistency, or were you holding her back?
Well, you know what? That's another topic of conversation, because there were times when Emily and Caitli were juniors, and Mckenzie was a freshman. Well, the 2 years they played together, we were 42-0, and some of those games got away, and it was tricky for me as a coach to say, hey, these kids, do they deserve to only play 2 quarters in the game? Do I take them out? They sat a lot of fourth quarters, and there were times that I got a little bit of a hard time for it. Hey, you left them in too long. But I really thought that they had earned their time and they deserved to play, and I tried to balance that, and that was kind of tricky for me. So maybe I held her back a little bit. I don't know.
I don't think so.
With Caitli was really the glue to that team, in the sense that we were always able to get into what we needed to do because nobody could press us. Caitli had this extra gear that she could just run by people at I think Caitli might be 5'3", but Caitli would rebound with anybody. Her leaping ability was amazing, and she always made sure that the ball was going to the right place. And then if we needed her to score, she would score. Again, I really I've got a great story about her. I can save it for a little bit later, but I actually walked into the coach's office at the University of Tampa and said, hey, you got to take a look at this kid. She can play for you. That's how much confidence I had in her, and I think how much confidence she gave to her teammates. And Mackenzie was really the missing link when she walked in as a freshman. We needed that post presence offensively and defensively. I mean, the scoring and the rebounds that she had. I mean, she's 1,000 rebounds, 1,700 points, and on the defensive end, watching her block shots was amazing. She had 112 block shots her junior year, and she had less her senior year because people just wouldn't come around her anymore. So she was able to do that on both ends of the floor for us, and really all of these girls had such a unique ability to make big plays when the game was on the line, and so it's been a fun ride.
All right. So I got a 2-part question for the girls now. So we're going to go right from the beginning. We're going to go back to Rachele. So 2-part question, your first impression of Laughn when he stepped in. Because I could say for me, Laugh's my guy. Like we're from the same hometown. He's a legend up there. So that's my guy right there. So I got my feelings about him. But I'm curious what your feelings are about him. And then also he mentioned the 42-0 or the 42 game winning streak, state championships and stuff like that. And it's kind of a progression to get there. So question 1, your first impression of Laughn, and question 2, what was it during your time there that helped get the program to where it is now, to where you guys are competing for state championships year in and year out? So we'll start with Rachele.
I mean, he came in and he was intense. So, I mean, that's a word that I can use. He wanted us to run things a certain way, and but he also kind of gave us a little bit of freedom. But I mean, he's a great coach. I think that I don't even know how long you've been there now, but over the past 11, 10 years that you've been there, he's developed a great program and developed a great feeder system. And I mean, they went 42-0, and I'm fortunate enough that I worked back in my hometown. And I was able to watch all of these guys end up playing in high school at one point or another. And I would also say, I mean, like I said earlier, his discipline, and definitely he had great drills coming in and great plays to run, especially towards the end of the game. I mean, our team wasn't part of obviously a 42-0 state championships and stuff like that, but he definitely created the culture of winning, and he wanted us to give our best every day, whatever that was. So.
All right. Same question for you, Kristen. Your first impression of Laughn, and also what was it about your time, the teams you played on? What was it that you guys accomplished to kind of help push the program along?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the first impression, but it's the one that sticks out to me the most. I think it was one of my first practices as a freshman with Varsity, and I did something, and he said, "Not gross," and that is the highest form of a compliment. But I didn't know that at the time. So that was like the first instance where I was like, oh, like that means that I'm actually doing this okay. All right, like I can do this. So like the levels are gross, which is terrible, and then not gross, which is amazing. And there's no in between. And I think that pretty well describes his coaching style. Like it's either what are you doing? That was horrible. Or like, great, let's keep going. And I really appreciate that kind of black and white feedback. And I definitely grew a lot from that. There's no gray area. I never guessed whether, I was doing what he wanted or not. And then so far as like my 4 years, it was my sophomore year really with we had Mia Rapola and Alyssa Clark and Natalie Egbert and like Kirsten Turner and Abby, I think it was 1 year before you got on the team, but we made it to semis, I think, and that was a pretty major deal, and that was a really amazing step for us. Of course, we lost to Macaulay, but that was how it was back then. I'm glad that it's no longer the case.
All right, Abby, how about you?
That year, though.
Oh, what was that, Lon?
We did beat Macaulay that year, though, once.
Yeah,
we beat once.
did.
All right, Abby, same question for you. Your first impression of Lon and what was it with your teams? What do your teams do? Or what do you think you guys contributed to where the program's at now?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that Kristen said that because that's kind of what popped in my head too is kind of a first impression, but just as I was getting to know Coach Berthiaume is the not gross thing, right? So I think like just who I am and how I was as a player is I tended to get a little hot-headed about things, like kind of ups and downs and crazies and like really into it. And he always kind of say like that wasn't gross, or like everything was always kind of like kept me more even keeled. And that I think was kind of my first impression of him. Like, okay, nothing's crazy as I tend to make things. And that's something that really stuck with me my 4 years is no matter whether it was really good, really bad, like it was just kind of like, it was what it was. So that was my first impression of him. And that kind of helped, I think, develop me, and especially into college, that really helped me. And like what I really felt with our team with Coach is, yes, he has his drills and very specific ways that we would do things in practice and practice our plays. But I felt that he really believes in his players. Like here's our drills and here's our plays that we're going to run, but like, it's up to you guys and it's on you guys to interpret and do what you want with them. And so I think our team, I mean, like Kristen was on my team for 2 years. I really think that we embodied that as a team. And I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I felt that he really believed in us 1,000% to do what we were going to do. Like when it was game time, it was time to perform, and he believed what we were going to do out there. So I think that, I mean, my little sister just is about to graduate from high school. So I got to see her play all 4 years. And I saw that even coming back to watch their games, he just has so much belief in his players to do the right things. And he trains us, and then we're going to go out there and do them. And I think that leeway was part of our success when I was there.
All right. Kaylea, same question for you. So first impression of Lon, and obviously your teams were with the best of the best. So you guys reached the pinnacle, but obviously the kids coming after you guys or want to emulate what you guys did. So first impression of Lon and what your guys' impact to the program was.
First impression is definitely something that sticks out to me is that he's very adaptive with each player and how he speaks with each of them. I know that, like, for example, Emily and I are two very completely different players, and the way you get to us is also a very different path. And I just remember certain times where Coach would say something to me, and then he'd say the same exact thing in a very different way to Emily. And it didn't matter who it was or what it was about. He just had the most patience any coach, I think, could have. And, I mean, he saw Em and I and Mckenzie since we played with him from 7th grade, I believe, in the summer league. So it was a long run with us. And then the second piece would be, I think the thing that sticks out to me about our seasons, especially the last two where there was that huge added pressure with the 42-0, we all just had fun. Like there were times when it needed to get really serious, but I think that we created this like culture in the game where it was a fun environment. We were all friends. We all had like conversations outside of basketball. Like it was just a really good environment to be a part of. And I think that creates that winning culture.
All right. Emily, same question for you. So, Lon, I think you must have liked Lon because he said he gave you the green light pretty much day one. But first impressions of Lon, and what your impact, what your teams are able to do for the program.
You said nothing's off the table. So, well, on my part, Coach Berthiaume and I had a rocky start my first 2 years, but that's mostly because I was immature and had an attitude. I'm still shocked he didn't kick me off the team, so I always give him credit to this day for that. And then my last 2 years, I mean, I always loved playing for him. He's a coach that, like, I appreciate coaches that have your back during the game, whether it's like a terrible call or something happens or you need someone to pick you up. Like, he's that coach, and you don't really see that often. So I learned to play for him, especially my last 2 years. And I think that's what made the difference is, like, playing for your coach. I would run through a brick wall for him. And it made it that much more enjoyable as well the last 2 years, like playing for other people rather than yourself, like your teammates, your coaches. And I think that made all the difference for me.
I will say this too. It's not easy when you're 14 years old and you're coming in and the coach is treating you like you're 22. And so, you know, I think you know, part of that rocky start was I had to figure out how to communicate better, and so that wasn't an attitude problem necessarily. It was I like to call it growing pains, and I'm glad that we figured it out.
All right, and then Mckenzie, same question for you. So your first impressions of Lon, and what was it? What were you guys? Well, it's not, you know, you guys were successful. So what was it about your group that was so special and did those things?
So my first impression of Lon, I always appreciated how he, like, always, like, throughout my 4 years continued to challenge me. Like, I felt like some of the things, like, okay, yeah, you got good at this, now try to get better at this. Like, he just kept pushing me to be better. I really appreciated that. Also, Lon and I are pretty similar in the fact where, like, we're pretty soft-spoken people, but we're competitive and we'll speak up when we need to speak up. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why I think we've gotten along really well the past 4 years, was because we're a similar type of person. And I think what made, like, kind of touching upon what Kaylea said, was that, like, every team that I played with at Gorham throughout the 4 years, like, I had, like, a friendship with, and, like, it was off the court stuff, like hanging out with them or just going to shoot with them outside of practice. And I played AAU with Emily, so we got close through that, and we experienced a lot of memories together. So I think it's just kind of the off the court stuff that makes a difference on the court.
All right. A lot of love for you, Lon. A lot of love in this room right now. And one thing I want to point out is he's got a lot of love for you guys too. I can't even name how many podcasts we've done, and he's always got a banner in the background, a shirt of a school that one of you girls are at, and he's not showing any favoritism tonight. So it's nice to see you right there, Lon. So I want to kind of shift gears here and just hit on the different girls, your time, a couple different random topics, and we'll throw Lon in there too. So Lon, obviously you've been there throughout this span, and you know, as time goes along, I'm guessing rivals change, opponents change, those type of things. But looking back on your time so far, what's the rival? What's like the program you like going up against the most? Which school do you get jacked up for? Like when you see that game on the schedule, like who do you look forward to playing?
I mean, I think there's two. I mean, earlier in my career, it was definitely Macaulay. You know, they had they always had a couple of Division I players, and they went through a run where they won 4 in a row. You know, like I mentioned earlier, we were close sometimes, but we knocked them off one year when they were undefeated. We knocked them off at our place, and actually over the last 20 minutes of the game, this is when you know, Mia was a senior, I believe, that we held them to 7 points over the last 20 minutes of the game. In the second half of my career, it's been South Portland. I mean, so South Portland's been right there with us, and you know, we've sort of gone back and forth. And in those years that we won it, we had to go through them on our side both times. And so I'd say those are the two schools.
Rachele, how about you? When you were there, what was the one team, the one game on the schedule you look forward to every year?
Macaulay, for sure. And I'm not just saying that because he said, even my first two, before Coach Berthiaume was there, my freshman and sophomore year, they were definitely the team that had everybody. I mean, some people would say that they recruited for all the kids to go there and they'd win, 4 in a row and stuff like that. So anytime, being somebody that I almost ended up going there, it would definitely was always a rival for me. So, my choice, my dad's choice, whoever's choice it was, I ended up staying at Gorham because I wanted to represent my hometown and compete for them. So whenever we played Macaulay, it was definitely like a rival because I played against those kids in AAU too, or with some of them. And so, yeah, that Macaulay would be the team for me. And then watching these guys, I can definitely kind of back up Coach Berthiaume. South Portland, I feel like was always in their way, and they always had to knock them off to move on to the next one and win. So that was always fun to watch.
All right. And for you, was it playing at Macaulay or was it Macaulay at your place? Which one did you like more? You like going into the Lions den or you like them coming to your place? Which game were you more excited for?
Didn't really matter. Honestly, like I like Macaulay's gym, like the small, have it packed. People are standing there. When I was playing, AAU was, there. I had Denise as a coach, but you would have college coaches like standing on the wall in the Macaulay gym watching you play. And so that was kind of a cool experience for them. You're like going in for a layup, and at Macaulay, it's like there's no runoff room really. You're about, you hit the wall. So it was kind of nice to have everybody packed in and on top of each other. But then again, I always like playing at home too. So.
All right, Kristen, how about you? Or Lon, you got something to say?
I was going to say, Macaulay was a tough place to play, but when Emily and Mckenzie and Caitli went in there and we beat them at their place, I don't think they had lost in their place in 7 years. And so it was one of those that it was always an extremely tough place to play.
All right, Kristen, how about you? What was the team that you look forward to playing every year during your time? What was that one game that you had circled on the schedule?
I'm going to say Macaulay, but honestly, there's like 6 or 7 that every time we played them, I was like, I just want to destroy them. So I don't know if I can really pick specifically one, but I think the most hyped up was definitely Macaulay.
Who were some of the other schools? You said there was like 6 or 7. So who else did you get excited for?
Westbrook, Scarborough, Bonnie Eagle, just because of proximity, and then Cheverus. Yeah, and Stanford for a year or 2 there. I just, really wanted to beat them by like 60. I don't know. It was everybody. Whoever came into our gym, I wanted to crush.
How about what out of all those schools you just named, what was the toughest place to go in and play? Whether it's just the gym itself, the fans, the atmosphere, what was the toughest place for you guys to go, or for you maybe to go in and play?
I think probably Macaulay or Cheverus. They both have kind of smaller gyms and a really dedicated fan base. I think that's a nice way of putting it. But yeah, small gyms, very intense crowds. I think Macaulay and Cheverus are probably tough.
All right. And Abby, same question for you. Guessing it's along the same. I'm sensing a pattern here, but for you, what was the team that you look forward to playing when the schedule came out of here, the one you kind of circled?
Yeah, I think I would kind of echo what Coach said. I think my span of being in high school, I saw both the Macaulay and the South Portland rival at the end there. I knew a lot of the girls on the Macaulay team, like just through AAU, and so yeah, it was always nice to beat them. But for me, I'll kind of say what Kristen said is Cheverus. I don't know, I just like to beat them. Like it felt good to beat them. Just I think maybe because of their fan base or whatever it was. I felt like those Cheverus games were really, really intense a lot of the time. So.
All right. And then Kaylea, how about you? So a little bit later on in Lon's tenure, and probably as you mentioned, the rivalry changed a little bit. Who was it for you?
Definitely South Portland, just because we always saw them in like some of the biggest games of the season. But another one for me was Greeley. we knew some of the girls, and it was just always right down to the wire with them. It was a really good competitive game. So definitely South Portland, but also Greeley.
How about this? I'll ask you a bit of a different question. Who had like the most annoying fans? Like, what's that one fan base that just for whatever reason? Because I keep hearing, like, everyone I talk to, there's like one school in particular that I hear a lot from, and I'm just curious if it's the same one for you.
For me?
Yeah.
So the most annoying fan base, I remember one game specifically. I know Emily will echo this. It was Thornton Academy.
Okay.
And I remember there were actually children who were being extremely rude as we were like running out of the tunnel. So that crowd definitely was the one that got me.
All right. That's not the one I was thinking, but then again, I like it. This is good. This is good to know. So Emily, same question for you. The team you look forward to playing every year, and it's a little bit different for you guys because you guys are probably the hunted at this point. But who was the school you got all amped up for every year, looking forward to play?
I would say definitely South Portland. I'll kind of echo what Kaylea said. I mean, it was always a competitive game, and they always had a well-rounded team, and I think that's what made it so exciting. But in terms of like most annoying fan base or whatever, Westbrook, Thornton, really, I think that's what drove me more is the annoying fan base as opposed to the team. So yeah, I'd play any of those teams.
How about just your favorite opposing gym to go in and play at? Like what other school had just a great gym? You're like, I like this floor. I like these lights. I like the setting. What was like your favorite road game to go play just for like the setting?
Surprisingly, I'm gonna say Bangor. We went on like a Wednesday night for school, and it was actually packed, and it was like I thought it was gonna be terrible just in terms of how long the drive was and everything. And I have to say, like, I enjoyed it in terms of like the crowd. It was like different than what I was expecting. So yeah, I actually enjoyed that one.
Not a bad one. A lot of gold balls in that trophy case too. I don't know if you guys walk by the trophy case, but Bangor's got a ton of gold balls. Mckenzie, how about you? What's the one game you circled on the schedule and just look forward to every year?
Kind of going off what Kristen said, like I don't like to lose any game, so I get pretty fired up for every game. And I think my freshman and sophomore year, just because we had such a big target on our back, you couldn't really take one game like more than the other because they're all going to be good games because you're going to be getting every team's best shot. So there wasn't a particular game. It was always good to beat South Portland, but we played them like in bigger games, I guess. So, but yeah, I just like to win. So.
Absolutely. So, Lana, I want to do something here. Just sticking on the random topic, random question thing. I want you to give me a superlative for each girl in this room right now. Give me one superlative because Mckenzie just said intensity. She's intense. So, I want you to give me a superlative for everybody in the room right now.
See that it might be tricky for me to go around and give one for each person because they have so many similar qualities. It's we talked about intensity. We talked about the will to win. I think they all share that. I touched on that at the beginning. They all have an edge to them where it's one of those when the going gets tough. I mean, you could look into each and every one of their eyes in a timeout in a big situation, and they're ready to go back on the floor. It's almost like, hey, we got it. Okay, we hear you. Just let us get back out there. We're going to take care of this. And so I'm going to talk about them collectively because they all shared that. I really feel like they were all leaders, and if somebody was having a hard time, they were going to grab them and go, hey, come on, get on board. So I think they all share those same qualities. And so if I'm going around the room, I'm going to repeat myself over and over again, but they're just, it's a room full of winners. That's what it is.
All right. Safe approach right there. Safe approach. So I'm going to kind of feed off the game you guys circled on the schedule. Obviously, you guys played a bunch of great teams. Great teams have great players, as evidenced by the girls in this room right now. So I'm going to start with Lon real quick. Who were some girls, and I don't know for you, like as a coach, game planning. Do you like to game plan to stop a girl, or does like a really good opposing girl give you nightmares. So that's part one of my question. Do you look forward to it, or do you kind of get scared of the good players? And who were some of those players that you just had to game plan and gave you nightmares during your time?
Well, you definitely got a game plan for opposing players. There's no question. But the good news is they always had the game plan for the people that I had too. And it was always something that was like a little bit tricky. I mean, are they going to put their best player on my best player and get 2 fouls in the first quarter? I mean, that type of thing. So no, there's definitely some game planning. I mean, Macaulay's had a number of highly successful players. So has Greeley. You're talking about Miss Basketball winners, Miss Basketball finalists. Allie Clement was an unbelievable player at Macaulay. Anna DeWolf was an unbelievable player at Greeley. Maddie Hassan at South Portland. So again, when we're talking about other teams, we're definitely talking about their best players and what to do. And in practices, we're running drills sometimes where I think I might have turned Espo into Maddie Hassan in one practice before when we were game planning something, how to stop her. And, that's as good as it gets as far as a practice plan right there, because you can't get any more prepared than trying to guard Emily in practice.
All right. So, Rachel, for you, who were some of the players that you loved going head-to-head against, some of the talented players that you guys matched up against during your times? Who were some of those? I'm guessing they went to Macaulay because, that's where a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of the good girls went. But who were some of the girls on your schedule that you just loved to battle against?
I mean, as a freshman, I remember a lot of the juniors and seniors on South Portland. Christina Esposito being one of them. She's actually my cousin, but I always loved playing against her. I know Diana Manduca. She played for Deering. She was one of those players that she'd walk out and we're friends to this day, but she'd walk out and she'd be like, I got you. And she'd grab my jersey the whole game. So it was always a fun competition against her. I mean, there are so many competitors that I played AAU with, but Riley Graves, she played for Wyndham.
I can jump in there a second.
Yeah, help me out here because that was a while ago. I'm old, right?
I was an assistant coach at the time, but Rachel was a freshman, and we were playing Macaulay, and she was playing against Ashley Simino, who went to Stanford. Yeah. She won Miss Basketball. And she was she was on Stanford's 2 teams that were in the national championship game back-to-back years, and the numbers escape me a little bit, but I want to say we scored about 32 points that game. And I think Rachel had 24 of them as a freshman.
All right. Lon is a numbers guy. He's a numbers guy.
I know he is a numbers guy. I remember, all I remember in that game is jumping against her, and she was 6'4", and I'm like 5'6" on a good day. So that was entertaining for sure. I would also say Emily Russo was also another one that her name popped into my head. She played for Biddeford. She actually went and played at UMaine for a year and then transferred to Stonehill and played. So she was another one that it was definitely always a game when we played against each other.
All right, Kristen, how about for you? Who were some of the players you just remember battling, the ones that kind of stick out, the ones that you had to go head-to-head against during your time?
I think, I'm sure the other girls are going to say this too, but anybody that I played on an AAU team with, that was always, extra special to go up against them. But Emily Russo, I played against her too, and she was always fun and competitive, just so physical. And I would throw Becca Knight probably as the top one. She was such a challenge. She was so fast and strong. And guarding her made me a better player, that's for sure.
All right. And Abby, how about you? Who are some of the ones that you remember matching up with that you like to go head-to-head against, or some of the tough players you guys had to go against during your time?
Yeah. Same thing as everybody saying, AAU teammates. So I think a big one for me was Katie McCrum from Thornton. I played AAU with her. We were same position. Another one from Thornton at the end there was Victoria Lux, so I actually had to guard one game. I think it was in my senior year, and she's got about a foot on me, and so I had to guard her in the post. That was fun. But yeah, I mean, Olivia Delphons, who went to Macaulay. I remember Jillian Libby, for the Libby sisters. I mean, Kristen knows her older sister, Kylie, from Chevrolet. So yeah, AAU teammates.
AAU. I'm sensing a theme here. Kaylea, how about you? Who were some of the players that you had to go head-to-head against, that you were matched up against, that you just remember that kind of stand out, some of the ones that you look forward to battling against?
I would echo what everyone's saying, the whole friend situation. Another thing for me is I'm actually 5'1". I don't know if I shrank or we just listed me up as 5'3", but anyone was a challenge for me. One that really stuck out was definitely Anna DeWolf. It was always competitive when we played her and Greeley. So that was definitely one that stuck out to me.
All right, Emily, how about for you? Who were some of the ones that you look forward to battling during your time?
I would say Anna DeWolf, definitely. I mean, just that whole team in general, whether it's Molly Chapin, Maura Train, they had a well-rounded team. And then Alex Hart is the only person I would talk trash to, I think. She went to Thornton, and I played AAU with her as well. But we could get each other going. And then Allie Clement, my freshman year, like that whole group was fun to play. That was an experience, and to be able to go up against some elite players was, I think, game-changing.
All right, Mackenzie, how about for you? And you probably didn't go head-to-head. You probably went 1 against 2. You're probably getting double and triple teams, so a little bit different for you. But who were some of the players you remember that kind of just you look forward to battling on the schedule?
Definitely like Anna DeWolf. I've said before, I'm glad I never had to guard her. But also I remember my freshman year playing against Jess Willerson from Macaulay. She was another good center in the state. She went and played at Cornell. So I think her, Katie Butler too from Bangor. She was another tough person to play against. But yeah, I like everyone else is saying AAU teammates. It's always fun to play against them.
All right, and Lon, I want to get your impression here, because AAU can be good, it can be bad. People have certain feelings about it. I'm wondering, as a coach, your thoughts. I mean, obviously, your girls get exposure through it. They get to match up against a bunch of talented individuals from outside the state. Like, what are your feelings on your girls playing AAU? Do you think it's good for the development? Do you kind of frown upon it? I'm just curious your thought process.
Honestly, I'm all for AAU. My son played AAU. I think there's positives and negatives in high school basketball and in AAU. The good part about AAU is I do think that you get a chance to play against the best of the best. I mean, if you play in a program that's going to travel and you're going to go to, North Carolina, and you're going to go to Florida, and you're going to go to these places and challenge yourself against the best players, then you're going to get an opportunity to get better. I also think it depends on the players and how you take that back to your high school program. If you take it back to your high school program and you look at it as, wow, these players aren't as good as my AAU teammates, then it's probably going to be a negative on the high school program. But if you take that experience and you bring it back to your high school program and you try to make your program better, which is what all of these players did, it really makes you better. And so I've embraced it. I think there's very good. I think there's a very positive thing that AAU does. I think everybody that the girls that go on to college, they're not necessarily getting everything they need from just the high school program. They're getting the exposure and they're getting the contacts from AAU as well. And so I'm a little bit of a part of that, but I'm never going to sit here and say that I made any of these players. And I don't think any AAU program can do that either. I think we all kind of, get to share in a part of their lives that help them move on and be successful. And so I'm all for AAU.
All right. So obviously that helps with their development, and everyone in here went on and played at the next level, or could have played at the next level, as Lon was saying earlier. So, and you guys have gone on to play at the highest level, at high levels all over the place. So I'm curious, what is it about Maine high school girls basketball, specifically in the South? What is it about Southern Maine girls basketball that produces so many good players? So, Rachel, I want to start with you. Like, why is it that we see these girls go and play D1 or play high level D2, D3? Like, what do you think it is that produces so many great players down there, or what helped develop you?
Well, again, being the old one here, AAU was like, kind of just starting. And like I had said before, I had Mackenzie's mom, Denise, as a coach. And we'd go to tournaments out of state and stuff like that. But it was really the high school, the college coaches were at the high school games. And then towards my junior and senior year, they were more starting to go to AAU and the high school games as well. But I think that the kids down here, they go to basketball camps growing up. They are playing in their rec programs. They're playing in their travel programs. They're playing in AAU programs now. I have an AAU program of my own. I have 4 teams, and a big emphasis for me when I'm coaching those kids is development and skill development and all that, because if you can't take somebody one-on-one, or you can't, are they sagging off me? Are they close? Should I drive? Should I shoot? Then, you really aren't going to be able to make it at the next level. So like just taking the skill development piece and continuing to have the athletes grow with that is huge. And then when they're put in the 5-on-5 setting, they're going to excel because they're going to know what they should be doing. I think that there are a lot of benefits, and I think that Southern Maine has done a really nice job with the AAU programs from the Firecrackers, Blue Wave, XL. I don't know if I'm missing any other ones, guys, but help me out if I am. But they've all done a really nice job with their athletes. And all of these guys have played for an AAU program and played at the next level in college, and it's something to be proud of. I think that we've done a really nice job putting ourselves on the map for sure. So, continuing to do that and continuing to be on things like this that you're doing, and getting the word for girls basketball out there, because I think, we all deserve to be the first choice, not the second choice, and, first thought, not an afterthought. And so continuing to develop the girls basketball game in Maine is an important thing. So.
And same question for you, Kristen. What is it about Southern Maine basketball? Like, what is it that, what is it? What's in the water down there that's producing so many great players, in your opinion?
Well, I can't really speak for the other teams, but I think it's a good level of competition throughout Southern Maine. And then, specifically that AAU versus high school balance, Coach runs a super structured practice. It was basically me transitioning from high school ball to basketball and learning all the plays and all the theories behind defense and stuff that didn't seem crazy to me at all. And kind of what Rachel was touching on is AAU was where we got that real individual skill development that you don't necessarily always have time for in a high school basketball season. So I think the interplay between those was really crucial to my development. Mackenzie's mom basically taught me how to be a post player because I didn't know. And, all of those experiences, I think, meshed together, and having that available in such a close proximity is what really makes Southern Maine basketball different and a really great place to learn and grow.
It's kind of the same question for you, Abby. So, what is it? What did you experience in high school that, led you to play in college and be successful? What is it that you guys got going on down there that just continues to just pump out players?
Yeah, I would say, again, just speaking to my experience. So I played AAU for the Firecrackers, and I think the whole Southern Maine thing is kind of the people around us, right? So to our coaches, the Firecracker and Coach Berthiaume's credit, and our families, I feel like we have a lot of people that are really dedicated to making good players and that skill development, but also keeping us really disciplined and making sure we're good kids and we're doing the right things, which I think translates to that discipline on the court too. So like Rachel said, we've got a lot of coaches that are committed to putting Maine basketball on the map, and we have all these great players that are having the time with these coaches that are really focusing on skills and that are getting kind of the intersection between high school basketball and the individual skill development in AAU, and families that are committed to traveling with us and getting exposure up and down the East Coast. And so I think it's it's kind of a community that we're all a part of, no matter what AAU team you're on. We all kind of know each other. We know those rivals, but we're also friends. Like we were all saying, our favorite people to play against are AAU teammates. So I really think that community and that expectation of greatness and what people have started and kind of carried through, especially through the AAU and high school community, is what's really producing these good players.
All right. And same question for you, Caitli. I mean, Lon was saying that you could have played down there if you wanted to. So obviously good enough to do so. So what do you think it is that you guys got going on down there that just is leading to all the success individually and team-wise?
I want to say it echoes kind of what everyone else has been saying, but I think it truly starts with like the inspiration from someone like Rachel, who they make it big, and then everyone else following that sees that they can make it big. And it's just kind of like a big chain of reaction where we get that exposure and girls are becoming more and more competitive and they want to be like that. And I think that inspiration can really spark big ideas for girls, especially young ones. So I think for that's probably what I would say. It's just that chain of reaction.
And Emily, for you, obviously you're down there, you're doing it right now, playing D1 hoops. What was it about the competition that you played against, or just the scene in Maine that prepared you to play at that level right now? What do you take away? What do you think is you guys are doing that prepares players like yourself to go and do it?
My biggest thing was, I mean, Abby said it very well, is just, having those AAU programs. And especially if you get put in the right one, like I know for the Firecrackers, our coach, Brian Clement, he was always big on like, leave it better than you found it. And I think that was huge. It started with Allie Clement, and she every year got better and better in the fact that they would allow their own kids to play up. So you get to practice with them. I think that is what really pushes you. And then to be able to go against players like Mckenzie in practice, like I know I'm going to be a shooting guard, but to go up against height, like it just got better every year. And I think the biggest thing now is like we had people make it, and now we're having people like Anna DeWolf, Mackenzie, Holmes, Faith Bluffin make the freshman teams and have outstanding games and break records. And I think it's only going up from here as well. I mean, it's to be continued.
All right. And Mackenzie, what is it about the competition you played, or just Southern Maine basketball, that helped you do what you're doing? Obviously doing things in the Big Ten right now. So what is it about Southern Maine basketball that's helped prepare you for Big Ten basketball? And we got to get you off mute.
Yeah. I think that a big thing, like Emily was saying, AAU, is that, especially on the team that I played on, was that like everybody on that team was like the first or second best player on their high school team. So it's a bunch of great players playing on one team. So I think that kind of gives you an idea of the level that you can play at, because like especially against some of the people we played against, we played at a super high level in AAU, so it kind of exposed you to kids that you'll be seeing at the next level, and how you fare with them kind of gives you an idea of the level you'll be able to play at. So I'd say that for sure, that AAU kind of exposed me to what I would be seeing at the next level.
All right. So AAU seems to be a good thing in this room right now. And so it's going to lead me to my next question. So ton of talented girls that you girls played with, play AAU ball and at Gorham. So my next question, if you got to pick four of the girls, if you're going to go into a gym right now, you got your five, you're one of them, you need four more. Give me four more. It could be AAU teammates. It could be teammates you played with at high school. Start with you, Rachel. Who are the other four girls you're bringing with you to an open gym to go bust some ass?
Besides these guys?
It could be anybody. It could be from your era. It could be AAU teammates, whoever you want. You
got to start with me, huh? I have to think a while back. These guys, youngsters, should be going first. They only have to think a couple of years. No. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Obviously, I would take I don't know. That's hard. That's a hard question.
We can circle back around if you want. We can come back to you if you want.
Yeah, I gotta think, but yeah, why don't you come back to me? Start with
we'll go reverse. We'll go with the most recent. Mckenzie, who you got to pick four of the girls with you. It could be AAU teammates or whoever. If you got to go into a gym and you want to run the court, who are the four girls you're bringing with you?
I'll say, I'll change it up a little bit from what I said last time. I'm gonna say Espo, Anna DeWolf. That's 2. Faith Bluthen. I'll take Kaylee. Kaylee can run the point. And I'm gonna take Alex Hart too because she was a lockdown defender for sure. So did I say 5?
I think you picked the six man, but it's all right.
I can just be the coach or something.
All right.
I don't have to play.
Emily, you got to pick 4. You got to bring 4 girls with you. Who are you bringing with you?
I'm bringing Mackenzie, Anna DeWolf, Kaylee, and Allie Clement.
Okay. Kaylee, how about you? You gotta bring 4 with you. And we got to get you off. We got to get you off mute.
I would probably say Mackenzie, Emily, and Anna. That's 3, right?
Yeah.
And Kristen Curley. Just because I had so much fun with my last 2 seasons that I played, I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
Gorham girls are popular right now. All right, Abby, how about you? You got to pick 4 girls to bring with you to an open run.
Oh man, I gotta go with my girl Kristen from the post, and then Victoria Lux, who I played AAU with. And then I think I'd take these 2, Kaylee on the point and Espo.
All right, Kristen, how about you? You got to pick 4.
I mean, I would love to pick everyone in here, but just for the sake of a little variety, I'll expand. So definitely me, Rapola. She and I had a ton of fun together. Then like Brooke Flaherty from Chevrolet, one of my AAU teammates. Kristen Anderson from Levitt, who was one of my AAU teammates. Megan Gribbins, she was from Wyndham.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Gribbin.
Yeah, and probably Alyssa Clark. Just she and I had a blast together.
All right, and Rachel, we're back to you if you're ready. If you're ready right now.
I'm ready. I have a couple old people too. So no, I'd pick Tiana Jo Carter for one of them. She played at Lake Region, played at Albany, and then I would pick let's see, probably Kristen Anderson for shooter. She played at UNH. She played at Levitt. What do I got? 2 more. I'm gonna pick Mckenzie as the 5-man, and then I guess I wouldn't mind playing with Espo. I'm waiting for that alumni game to happen, Coach Berthiaume, but so
right.
yeah, I'd pick those guys.
I'd love it if they'd all come back and play in the alumni game. I ask them. Schedules are tough though.
Just do it in the summertime. Everyone's got free time right now. Just find a way to clear that with the state real quick. Let's make that happen.
Oh yeah.
Lon, how about you?
There'll be one day that we all play. It's just they might be as old as I am, and I'll be
exactly
whatever.
Hey, Lon, can you pick 5 opponents that you played against? Like maybe like your all nightmare team?
Let's see. Well, Anna DeWolf and Allie Clement are definitely in there. Now we only played this person in the summertime, and I was wondering if Mckenzie was going to say her name, but Mckenzie was a freshman who played against Nia Irving at Lawrence. She was tough, actually, a teammate with Emily at BU this year. Maddie Hassan, and again, this is another person that was that we played in scrimmages and stuff, but I'm going to go with Shannon Todd at York.
Just a ton of talented girls all over the place down there. All right, so my next question here. This is more for you girls during your time at Gorham, and it relates to Lon. So I'm curious if there's one thing that you girls would do that would just irritate Lon, or just one thing that would just get on his nerve, or maybe something pregame. Just something that you would do to kind of get at him or to irritate him. Rachel, was there anything that you girls did during your time that would just get on his nerves?
I can't remember really. No, I seriously, I've been out for 10 years now, but no, his first couple of years, I know that these younger guys have some stories, probably that stuff they did that got on his nerves. But his first couple of years, he was kind of just, trying to get that tenureship, if you will. You know, I didn't want to poke any buttons or anything like that. But no, I mean, the only thing I could really think of that upset him was when I got hurt. He didn't like that. Like, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
Hey, again, we were in first place when she got hurt. Rachel was averaging over 25 points a game, and then we had a hard time scoring 25 points as a team after that. We were just really young after that. And some of the younger girls won't understand it, but I was way more intense when I was coaching Rachel and when I was coaching Kristen. I mean, I've mellowed a lot over the years, believe it or not.
Yeah, you guys lucked out. I do remember he would be all over me all the time. Like, but
Rachel was used to it.
Yeah, that's a different story. But you guys all know my dad. I was kind of used to it. So
how about this? Like, you mentioned, like, during his time there, he didn't want to say anything too R-rated to get in trouble. Like, did he say something when he was mad? Like, did he have like a phrase or a word he would say where you're like, oh shit, like we pissed off Laughn?
No, he just give you a look like you better get your crap together, right? So, but I'm sure, like I said, I mean, I've heard stories from some of these guys and some of the younger kids that, you know, they definitely know what ticks him off, and he more verbalized it, I think, later in his career than he did in the beginning. So he just say, you know, get your head out of your butt to me, or hey, that girl's going to beat you. And then that just pissed me off. So I just try even harder.
All right, Kristen, how about when it was your time with your team? Did you guys do something? Was there something you guys did that he would just shake his head at, or he would get irritated at, or was there anything in particular?
I mean, constantly. I feel like, especially like my sophomore year team, I think we probably irritated him more times than he could count. And I can't honestly tell you a specific example, but I know, like, for him and I personally, like, I'm not the type of player that likes to shoot that much. So a lot of our huddles were him in my face being like, would you just shoot the ball? Like, just shoot it. Just take the shot. So I think that me just being like passing it or something, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, I've set up this play for you. Stop passing. I think that was probably my hallmark for irritating him.
All right, Abby, how about your teams? Did you guys do something that just irritated Laughn, or would you guys do it on purpose?
Yeah, it's funny that Kristen just said that, because that's what was in my mind too. He would always yell at us. I mean, never me. I didn't really have that problem, but I remember him yelling at other people to shoot the ball. But I mean, like I said at the beginning, he was pretty even keeled through things. I mean, he definitely had a look, kind of like a head back, palms up, like, what are you doing kind of look, but nothing like too verbal that I remember.
Okay. Kaylea, how about you? Was there something that you guys did that would get on his nerve?
I don't know that it's like a specific action that would get on his nerve, but I remember a few practices towards the end of our, like, probably my senior year, where we wouldn't have a ton of focus in the gym. I just remember there was one specific practice that we could not get through a drill. And I'm pretty sure he was like, if you don't want to focus, then that's it for today. That was like the one time that I actually saw him get pretty mad at us. But it was just the lack of focus sometimes for us.
All right.
I will say this, though, as the point guard of a team that was very, very talented, I always used to tell Kaylea that I was going to give her a hard time if people weren't in the right spot. Like, that's her job. You make sure people are in the right spot before we run something. And you know, she was the one that was in charge, and I would tell her sometimes, you're gonna hear it from me. It could be somebody else's mistake, but you're gonna hear it from me. Don't let them make a mistake.
All right, Emily, how about you? Do you recall anything that you guys would do on purpose to irritate him? Maybe something like pregame or in the locker room or on the bus?
I feel like we were pretty focused in those moments, but personally, I think he never really showed it, maybe like once or twice. But if I ever, like, sometimes I would have an attitude and question what he said, or if I just got way too competitive in practice and then I made it not fun for everyone involved, and Mackenzie and Kaylea know. Yeah, he didn't really show too much like disappointment in those moments, but I feel like those are the things that irritated him.
I'll also say this too. Espo never liked to wear her practice jersey.
Yes, yeah.
She would come in all the time and she wouldn't wear a practice jersey.
Too heavy, too baggy. I need to be able to move. Keep up with Caitli.
That was her little power struggle with me. She wasn't gonna wear a practice jersey.
All right, Mckenzie, and how about for you? Was there anything you guys did that got on his nerve?
I don't know. It's a little different than that, but how you know he would be upset is if you would come in for practice one day and he would have chairs set up in the middle of the gym and we would have circle time with each other. That's when you know something went wrong. Like, I remember my junior year, we beat Sanford, but it was a really terrible game. I think I probably missed like 20 layups and we gave up so many offensive rebounds, and we come into the gym and there's no basketballs out and there's just chairs sitting in the gym. I'm like, uh-oh. So I guess that was kind of the time where I knew where we were either in trouble or he had something on his mind.
All right, so Lon, I got two questions for you. One, what is circle time here? Can you explain what circle time is?
All right.
I don't know. So, I heard about Coach. I heard about circle time, and this was before I even started playing. I heard that when Coach Coyne was there, you brought him in a circle too. Kind of did a little kumbaya.
Yeah. So my first experience with girls basketball, and I was an assistant coach, and we were preparing for the playoffs, and during the scrimmage before, the girl ended up getting upset, crying on the bench, and we had to have like an important talk. So that's where circle time kind of developed. We got home from that and we sat around the jump circle. And the idea is that you take the bench and you put it around the jump circle, and there's really no beginning or the end of the bench anymore. You're around the jump circle in the middle of the gym, and that was your time. You could have your important talks. Now they could be talks that were very serious talks. They could be talks about your different feelings about things. They could be close talks, or they could be talks where you got to figure some stuff out. But that was kind of a symbol that it was going to be something that was important.
All right. My second question for you is, what did these girls do that got on your nerve? Like, I was thinking maybe it was like something they did like pregame or in the locker room, a song they sang, like something they did on the bus. Like, there had to have been something that just got on your nerve.
All right. So one of the things I've learned over the years is that I gotta let them have some freedom to enjoy each other and to have some fun. And there are some certain things that I have to just live with. And over the course of times, like things that they do in the locker room, or songs they're singing, or they're going to wear certain things, that I just had to let them be them. And so probably earlier in my career, where it was, hey, we're going to dress this way, and this is how we're going to act, and all that stuff, I've sort of changed my thoughts on, because honestly, a happy, tight group, they play the best. As far as things that irritate me, if practice starts at 3:00, that's when the first drill starts. It doesn't mean you're putting your sneakers on at 3:00. It doesn't mean you're tucking in your jersey. I mean, I want you to be there and ready to go, shoes laced up, and first drill starts. I've got my practice planned out where it's minute by minute, and I even have like a 2-minute drink break in the practice and things like that. And so, there are things that I want to get through. So I don't think I think learning that structure early, when some kids maybe need to learn from the upperclassmen, but that's sort of one of the things over the years that's happened, is the upperclassmen sort of pass things down, and I don't really have to go through team rules or anything like that. So I would say practice, being on time and getting through the things we're supposed to, and then on their end, letting them be them. That's something I've learned from them.
Fair enough. I like it. All right, so I got a couple more questions before we get up out of here. I'm going to go around the room, and looking back on your Gorham days, obviously everyone went on, played at the next level, has done other things in life, but I think we all tend to look back on our high school days, and we have memories, especially for us that hoop. So I want to know, looking back on your Gorham days, what's the moment that stands out the most? 30 years from now, what's the story or the game or the one thing you'll go back to that you can talk about with pride? So, Rachel, start with you. What's your Gorham moment?
Let's see. I mean, for me, like I wasn't as lucky as these guys were, obviously, to win state championships, make it far into the playoffs. Like we got knocked out in the quarterfinals almost every year. But I think being a part of like the team that I was on, especially my freshman and sophomore year, being a part of that team helped me grow as a person. Because I came in as a little freshman and was like, "Oh, I'm going to take your spot." Like I definitely had a chip on my shoulder. I had an attitude at times, but I think being around those upperclassmen and just that culture that they brought, that's something that really stuck out to me throughout my 4 years. And I mean, as far as a game goes, I would probably say the game that Coach Berthiaume talked about earlier at Scarborough, where we came back and won by 4, I think it was, and just the team really came together in the second half. Yeah, I mean, yes, I had whatever number of points he says, but
21 in the fourth, 37 overall.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like you can't do that without your teammates. So my hat's off to everybody that I was able to play with, and it was just a lot of fun to play and to be a Ram. I'm very happy that I was able to stay at Gorham and I didn't end up going to Macaulay. So.
All right, Kristen, how about you? What's your Gorham moment? What are you going to look back at? What's the one, either moment, game? What will you go back to when asked many years from now?
I mean, there's a lot of great ones, but definitely like that sophomore year game, beating Macaulay and snapping their win streak, and just like being with the team afterwards. Like everyone goes to G-Hop and eats pizza, and we were all on such like an adrenaline high for like what felt like 3 days. And I mean, that sophomore team for me was so close. And like he was saying, like the older girls that were like the seniors that year, especially, like I would do anything for any of those girls. And like that's why I played for Coach like so well, because that trust. But those seniors that year were especially important to me and like my development as a basketball player.
All right, and same question for you, Abby. What's your Gorham moment looking back at it now?
Yeah, I think I would say my initial reaction to that question would be kind of that South Portland game that Coach referred to earlier, where we were down by 3 and he drew up a play and Espo and I were able to execute it, and that was just a really good team win. That felt really good to beat a rival. But just thinking back at it all, like I just really enjoyed my teammates. I really enjoyed playing in that gym. I still feel it when I walk into the gym to see my little sister play. Like nothing beats those Friday night games and you're wearing your hometown jersey like that. That's more so what I think about is just the feeling that like when I think back about high school basketball, it's not a specific moment. It's even like summer ball I really enjoyed because you're just like with your teammates. For me, that's what really made it, is like the practices and in before and after the games, just being around your teammates and those friendships that you still have. That's what I really hold close.
No doubt. Kaylea, how about you? What's your Gorham moment?
For me, I feel like there are so many to pick from and so many big moments that we had as a whole. I mean, we won the 2 state titles and that was something pretty special. But for me, something that sticks out is actually the practice that we had right before the second state final at the Augusta Civic Center. I think that's when I really realized who I was playing with and the bond that we all had, coaches, players, all included. And for me, that's what really stuck out. Is just I realized who I was around and surrounded with.
All right. Emily, how about you? What's your moment that you'll remember many years from now?
I would say our first state championship, because I was like, okay, we got one under our belt and now we have an opportunity to go get a second one with the same group. And I knew I had another year, so it felt good. Like we went out on a high, and then to have another year to do it. But I think the biggest thing is like I look back and I regret taking high school basketball for granted. Like when you know or have an idea that you're going to play at the next level regardless, you can't wait to get there. And when you get there, sometimes it's not all it's like made it out to be. So I've been at a school where it's challenging and, you kind of lose the love for the game and you miss playing with teammates that you grew up with and enjoyed being around. And then other times you get lucky and you're part of a program that is similar to high school where you feel this like extreme bond with your teammates and coaches.
All right. And Mackenzie, your moment, which one are you going to look back on fondly or look on back the most when it's all said and done?
I'd say what I would look back on the most is like the relationships I built through basketball, especially at Gorham. Like I don't think there's one person on any of the teams I played on my 4 years of high school that I couldn't reach out to and talk to and ask to like go get lunch or something like that. And I think that speaks volume of the culture that's built at Gorham because we're all still friends and we're all close. And I always am curious on how some of them are doing or what they're up to. So I think that. And as far as a game goes, I'd say the second state championship game. My sophomore year, just because we were down in that game, and that was like, I don't know the last time we've been down in a game by more than, I think we were down double digits if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think we willed our way back into that one and ended up winning. So I think that felt pretty sweet, and especially knowing that we could do it for like Kaylee and Espo and Kristen on their senior year too, that they got the opportunity to go out like that was really special.
Laughn, how about you? Can you pick favorites here? Can you pick a moment or?
So obviously the two state championships were sweet. I mean, when we won the second one, Emily had the ball at half court, and as the horn went off, she spiked it and the ball bounced up in front of the scoreboard in the middle of the court. That's a pretty iconic moment. I have that picture with a gold 42 in front of it. That one's special. The first state championship was more of a relief for me. I mean, we had such a good team, and I wanted to make sure that I was preparing every day, that I just wanted to put them in the best possible position. We had scouting reports for the worst teams in the league. I made sure each game that I did that. But when we won that one, it was more of a relief. Then the second one was more of a celebration. But I was really relieved after that first one. But a couple like regular season games that really stick out. Emily's I believe it was her senior year. She was hurt at the beginning of the year, and we went over to South Portland, and we're down 15 at halftime, and she's not allowed to play. She's trying to get herself taped up at halftime. I'm saying, Emily, you can. I mean, I got doctor's orders. You're not allowed to go in, but we had the team that kind of stuck together, and we came back from 15 down at halftime to win by 2. But if I had to pick one game, I obviously going over and beating Macaulay at their place when they hadn't lost in 7 years, that one's big too. But the one game that I would have to pick, we're at TA and we're down 3 with 5 seconds left, and we won by 5. So we scored 8 points in the last 5 seconds of the game to win. And it's really, if you weren't there, you wouldn't understand it. So they wanted to foul us before we got the ball in, so we couldn't take a 3 to tie it. And so they did. And Emily stepped up and she made both free throws. TA throws the ball long and it goes out of bounds on the other end of the court. So we got a little bit lucky there. And when we inbounded the ball to Kaylee, they had got directions in the last time out to foul. And so one of the players thought that that's what they were still supposed to do. So they fouled Kaylee. She stepped up and made her 2 free throws. And so now we're up 1. They call a timeout that they didn't have, so we got 2 technical free throws. Now we're up 3, and then they have to foul us on the inbounds, and now we make 2 more free throws, and we're up 5. So we scored, 8 points in the last 5 seconds of the game. So that one was pretty incredible, and I've got a picture of that on my wall in my classroom, and that one's a pretty special one.
All right. So we've reached the end of the podcast here. Now, I always on the podcast the same way. I go around the room. I let everyone have the floor. I'm not going to ask questions before we get up out of here. You guys can say whatever you want before we get up out of here. So you guys all get the final word. We'll start with Rachel. Anything that you want to say before we get up out of here? It can be some love for Laughn. It can be some love for Gorham Hoops. It can be anything you want. The floor is yours for your final piece here.
You always got to start with the old one. No. I mean, I think something that's really awesome and something that I can look back on always is the culture that Gorham girls basketball has, and the relationships that I have with even these guys. I coach at University of Southern Maine, And so I'm in Gorham area, and I know I've watched all these guys play, and I stay after the games. I say hi, I say good job, and I mean these guys could be like, who, what the heck, like, and blow me off, but they take time to come and say hi and thanks for coming. And I just think what Coach Berthiaume has created is really something special, and I'm not sure you can say the same for a lot of the other high schools in the area. So that's definitely something that I think we should all feel really grateful for, and just being able to be a part of the same program, whether it was when I was playing or when, the current players are playing. So yeah, it's just something really special. And these guys always have a special place in my heart because you're Ram Pride. You're always we all graduated from Gorham. So yeah, I mean, looking up, it's being a little bit older than these guys, it's pretty cool because when I was growing up, I had people that I looked up to. And then watching these guys grow up, I would see them at USM basketball camp where I would be a camp counselor. I'd see Espo or Mckenzie at USM shooting around. And so it's really something special to be able to have watched all of these guys grow into amazing human beings and great athletes. But most importantly, they're all going to do something wonderful with their life, and I can't wait to see what happens. So,
all right.
Coach Berthiaume, you're pretty great too, but I had to give the love to the girls. You have a special place in my heart. So,
all right, we're gonna go to Kristen. The floor is yours. Your last words tonight before we get up out of here.
I mean, my thoughts pretty much align with what Rachel said, and I don't think I could say it any better. So I guess I'll keep it kind of short and sweet. And after I ended my college career, someone asked me if I would play it again. And I was like, I don't think I'd play college basketball again, but I would play Gorham basketball for Coach B anytime. Like, anytime. Just such good memories. And like we were saying, like the girls I grew up watching, the girls I played with, getting to see you guys now, like just couldn't have asked for a better program to be a part of.
All right. Abby, your turn. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a thread here kind of forming, but I think we all value the community that we've been fortunate to be a part of, and giving some love to Coach here. I mean, I think it's kind of special that you can still stay so connected with your high school coach, and he makes an effort to stay connected with each of us, and that by in turn keeps us all connected to a larger community than ourselves. And he kind of, I think for all of us, has become a mentor too, like an adult friend, a mentor, and that's something really special. And for me, I didn't even realize that until I was out of it and I was playing college ball. And I mean, different kind of love there, but that's more of a business, and that's just a different environment. And so for me, I really am able to look back and think like, wow, I would, like Kristen said, I would go back and play another 4 years of high school basketball any day. And you really miss that. So it's just even like this, like how many high schools can do this right now and stay connected with each other. So it's just something that I think I'll always hold close to my heart.
Absolutely. Kaylea, your turn. Final words before we get up out of here.
Something that I owe Coach a huge thank you for everything that he's done for me personally. For me, I took a bit of a different route. I didn't play college basketball. But in my eyes, the reason behind that was, one, I wanted to go out on top. But two, I didn't think that there would be another coach that got me in the way that Coach Berthiaume did. It's just a bond that I don't think nothing will top that. I know that he would have done anything for me to play. In fact, he walked into the coach's office himself to do so. But I don't know. There's just something about like that.
I was going to say bond, I think.
What's that?
And you cut out.
You cut out for a second, so we lost you right when you were about to come hard with something great, I think.
Oh, I gotcha. So I was just saying, like, I'm not playing college ball, and the main reason for that is because I don't think that there's a coach relationship that I would have topped what I had with Coach Berthiaume. That bond, there's nothing like it. I know he would do anything for me, and likewise. So I just owe him a huge thank you for everything that he's done for me personally and the growth that he's allowed me to have.
Emily, your turn. Final words before we get up out of here.
My biggest thing is I always try and say this to him whenever I see him is thank you for not ever kicking me off the team. Thank you for putting up with me. And my mother always says thank you as well. And then thank you also to the players who are on this call as well, because I think everyone left it better, the program better than they found it, of course, with the help of Coach Berthiaume and the guidance. And he just made it such a great experience in terms of the culture he built and cultivated throughout his time as a coach. So, yeah, it's irreplaceable memories with Gorham basketball.
And then Mckenzie, your turn.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Emily said, just thank you to everyone on this call, because it kind of worked its way to build a culture that I knew I wanted to look for when picking a school for college. So I wanted to make sure I went to a school where I had a great relationship with the coach, as I do Laughn, and I have great teammates surrounding me like I did at Gorham. So I think it just kind of gave an idea of what I wanted in a college, and I think it set me up for where I'm at now. And yeah, definitely that, and just I'm excited to see what everybody does in their future endeavors and where Gorham basketball ends up when I'm Rachel's age.
Right, 28's old, right? Who's the youngest here? Mackenzie, what are you, 19?
19, yep.
Yeah, 28. I got I'm going to be 29, so I got 10 years on you. But hey, you guys will all invite Coach Berthiaume to your wedding. I've already been married, so that's something to look forward to as well, right? So.
And then Laughn, you got the final words before we get up out of here. So a lot of admiration for you. Girls still calling you coach all these years later. Obviously, culture has been a word that's been thrown around a lot tonight. So your final words before we get up out of here.
So I'm sort of stuck in the middle here, where I got an opportunity to do this with my high school coach, and my high school coach was at some of your playoff games. And as we're sitting and we're talking, one of the things that I said was, when I first started coaching, you think it's about drawing up a good play or about winning all the time. And although those are the things that you try to do, that for me, I told him it's more for me about the relationship I was able to form with him, and being in contact with him still. And my college coach the same way. Coach Meter at Farmington and Coach Murphy at Fort Kent are great men in my life. And so in reverse order here, I'm very thankful that I'm able to have those same relationships with you guys, that, I send out a text and you guys are willing to get on and talk about your experience at Gorham basketball. And I truly appreciate the relationships. I appreciate how hard you guys played for me. I appreciate the trust you had in me, and know that I worked as hard as I could for you. And in turn, I felt like you guys did the same for me. And my special memories aren't necessarily always wins and losses, but it's about, being in those moments together and trying to do the right thing for each other. So I want you all to know that I appreciate you very much. A couple other girls that weren't able to be here today, Mia Rapola and Kristen Curley, I want to mention they were upset that they couldn't be here tonight too, but they were a big part of the Gorham culture as well. So I wanted to say that also.
All right. Shout out to Laughn for making this happen right here. Shout out to Gorham girls high school basketball, the unofficial favorite here at a Big Time Hoops. So shout out to everyone for coming through. This is good. It's a lot of fun right here. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. Make sure you're checking out all the previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, you name it, it's out there. So check those out. But that's it. We'll see you next week with another episode of Big Time Hoops. See you.